Overreaction show Tuesday night. Tuesday night. Sorry, this is George Whitfield, joined by two of my favorite heavyweights, representing the national champion Clemson Tigers, and father to be, Mr. Darien Rencher. Darien, how you doing, man?
Doing good, man. Glad to be back. Back.
It's great to have you, bringing some of that ACC voice with you, and from the superpower. Watch out because they're now in the top 10.
Come
Razorback,
on.
Higgs, Suey, Mr. Clint Stoerner, voice of the Dallas Cowboys, Razorbacks, and all things Texas. How we doing, sir?
Man, if I was any better, I'd need a twin, baby. Look here. Look here. Baby just went to bed. She was up screaming. She got her back. Mama got her back down right before we started. My hogs are top 10. And hey, look here. By the way, y'all check that out now. That's that field of 12 merch right there, just in case y'all was wondering right there, cussing and discussing.
And tell them where they can get it. Tell them where they can get it.
Hey, man, life is good, brother. Life is good. Good to be on here with you guys, man.
Tell the people where they can get that merch. You got that new hot gear there. Tell them where they could get some.
One more time for the homies that are dead and gone.
I gotta hop on here. Field of 68 shop for the cussing and discussing shirt, everybody. Field of 68 shop.
Field of 68 shop. Get your cussing and discussing. Your official Clint Stoerner retro tee. It's got the crispy crimson on there. Representing a top 10 Jurassic Park team right now in the national rankings. And again, welcome to the Field of 12, powered by BetRivers. George Whitfield, Darien Rencher, Clint Stoerner. Fellas, we're gonna go for a ride here on some week 3 top storylines. Evidently, the Pac-12 is still competing. They do have something to say. We'll go back and visit them. The Big Ten East, they do have their 3 resident monsters. All 3 got up and made some moves this weekend. We're going to look at some teams. Are they frauds? Are they for real? Yes, it's early, but we saw 12 quarters of football and much, much more per our tradition here at Field of 12. We do a toast, and this toast is pretty cool. Usually we do one Saturday night right after the games, but fellas, we've had 48 hours distance from the week of games and battles, drama. Do you have a toast, Darien? I want to start with you. Do you have a toast? Your recognition on a player, thing, team, squad, something. You might be on mute there, Darien. Can you hear me? Did you mute it? Clint, we'll go to you. Clint, we'll get Darien back in here. Let's get a toast.
Yeah. Well, here's to mute buttons. Here's the mute buttons that work and mute buttons that don't work. Hey, D, you look good doing it, my brother. You look good doing it. Now, look, I'm going to give mine because I like to eat crow. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people in our business that got an alligator mouth and a hummingbird ass. And bottom line is, I like to talk big. I like to talk about it. My eyes don't typically fool me. And when I'm wrong, I ain't got no problem telling a man I'm wrong. Bo Nix. Bo Nix, I gave you hell when you were at Auburn. I gave you hell the first couple of weeks of the season when you was at Oregon. But real recognizes real, baby. You went out there versus BYU. I thought the group of 5 team that was going to be a national championship contender, college football playoff contender, had a chance to make that Cinderella run, if you will. But my brother, Bo Nix, went out there and did his thing this weekend, man, in a big, big way. Again, real recognize real. Here's to Bo Nix for doing his thing and keeping that Pac-12 relevant, right?
Hey, Bo Nix, sir. Respect. Darien, are you set? Are you on the mound? Are you ready to pitch?
Nothing
yet. Okay. So on behalf of Darien, I am going to go ahead and humbly submit his Clemson Tigers.
I'm back.
He's back.
Oh, look, I don't know what happened. Look, I'm ready for my toast. I don't know what happened.
Look at him. As soon as I said Clemson, Clint, as soon as I said Clemson Tigers, the magic words. Go ahead, sir.
My toast, like I was trying to say, but was definitely muted.
To the undefeated NC State. Is that it? Undefeated NC State or no?
It won't be them, I promise.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we're not going there. October 1st would be the time. If I give them any credit, they'll get it then. They beat us.
Fair enough.
My toast is going to a team that really should be 3-0. Also, it's always shoulda, woulda, coulda. But to a player, to me, who maybe having up there with Drake, maybe having one of the best college football season storylines out there, is to Chase Bryce. Hail Mary pass to win the game. 2 seconds left in the fourth quarter. They're down to beat Troy. College game day. Boone is America's favorite team right now. Like they show up, show out. Fan support's crazy. So my toast is going to Chase Bryce and to App State.
Hey, respect.
Hey, G, can we say this real quick about that? I mean, so many times people want to dog cuss the transfer portal.
Right.
Can we also, can I add a little something to that, D, and just say, here's the transfer portal. That's a young man that would have been buried on a depth chart. Probably 100%. Never would have seen the light of day. 100%. Made a couple of moves, and here he is, America's college football sweetheart for the last couple of weeks. So beautiful. So beautiful.
And I hope it keeps going for him. That's right. That's a school with a proud tradition. That's a campus. There was nothing more fun, and I'm sure you both saw that, Clint, to your point. A bystander walked out in downtown, I don't even know what, in Boone, North Carolina. Boom. Soon as they knocked out A&M, they turned the camera. They walked out of a building downtown. They looked to their left, and it's a mass of people like a movie running. And then they turned to their right, and it looked like it was staged, but they just stepped outside 1 minute after that Aggie game was over. Down they come. And another point to your boy Chase Bryce, do you know post-game, he throws the Hail Mary, he's down in the end zone with his teammates celebrating, and then he winds up walking over to the barrier to help students who trying to rush the field get out on the field safely.
Right.
Like come on, man. Come on. That's Chase Bryce. Keep running, man. We're with you. We're with you.
See Breezy.
That's right. Former teammate, huh?
Come on, look, and that's a great point. I think just you look at the transfer portal has so many, rightful like cautions and negatives to it because some guys leave and are very emotional and they don't think about the bigger picture. They don't see the process through. This is a developmental game more than, to me, any other sport. But Chase Bryce is one of the bright spots of the transfer portal. A guy who was a graduate from Clemson, who if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have my second ring because he had that Syracuse win. I remember that 4th and 7 to T. Higgins. And so a dude who rightfully deserved to go play somewhere else. And he bounced around, but I think he's finally found his niche at App State.
And that's all you want. That's what the portal isn't so much about people being unhappy and jumping and hopping and jumping. You only have this finite amount of time to figure a way out onto the stage. Yes, you want to battle. But if I found myself here and I got 3 great white sharks in front of me, you could battle all day, all night. And if I look over there, it's a great white shark who's a year from leaving and some catfish. I need to be over there. God bless the transfer portal. Okay, so I love it. We already off to a great start. My toast is going to a program that for the last certainly 15 years, people were climbing over each other to get these guys as a homecoming game. And everybody was easily ready to write a nice check because you can run up some nice stats. You can fill your stadium with the team you can beat in the first quarter and then get on with it. Now, all of a sudden, the Kansas Jayhawks are leading the nation after 3 weeks in points per game, 7th in rushing yards per game, 1st in offensive efficiency, and they have more touchdowns in 3 games than they did in 12 games last year, led by their quarterback, Jalen Daniels, who leads a team in passing and rushing. The Kansas Jayhawks to the Kansas Jayhawks. Rock chop.
Salute.
And to that point, this is where the fans of places like Lincoln, Nebraska, and the Cornhuskers, or Arizona State, or Clint, you could name however many, and Darien, you can name however many, where resources are there, infrastructure's in place, legacies are there, old championships are in the building. And then people are told, buy him time, give him time, buy him time. But then yet, the difference between what Kansas is doing now and what they've been, relegated to the last 15 years, a culture, leadership, and a group of men putting a flag in the ground saying, not this program, not this year. It's just really decision. Nothing magical happened in terms of a building or a machine or a computer. Nothing happened like that. It's just people. People decided, and then that was it. They just decided. The portal helped them immensely. I think it's going to help other programs, just like what we were already kind of talking about, immensely. Just in terms of helping people like kind of jumpstart their programs. All right, so we're off. We just got our toast. And again, thank you for joining us. Field of 12 After Dark. George Whitfield, joined by Darien Rencher, Clint Stoerner, both girl dads. This is a girl dad run here.
Come on, girl dads, baby.
Some overreaction Tuesday. We fellas, we need to start to pay a little bit of attention to the Pac-12. And it's a shame that we got to say that already, but they have not been in the playoffs since 2014. And for the last 7-8 years, they've just been participating. They had no real interest in coming and getting in the big national dance. They've shown it. All of a sudden, Oregon revitalizes themselves. Washington has their first big at-bat. And then the Trojans continue to make noise. Fellas, let me read you a couple little breakdowns here of how the weekend went for the Pac-12. Oregon took on number 12 BYU after being dismantled piece by piece just 2 weeks ago by the White Walkers in Georgia. They beat them 41-20. And Clint, to your point there with the toast, outgained BYU, better them, third down efficiency, big time in the fourth quarter, big win at home for the Ducks. And then Washington hosts a Big Ten power in Michigan State, undefeated Michigan State. They come in 11th ranked. So the 11th and 12th ranked teams in the country travel west of the Rockies, both get beat. Washington and their new coaching staff, new leader and their quarterback, Michael Penix, you know him from Indiana, they get a big win, 39-28. And it wasn't honestly even that close when you watch the game. It looked like they could have done anything they wanted to do out there. Of course, we've seen the Trojans, but we haven't seen the Trojans up against an opposite equal. But what we have seen, it does look scary. Fellas, how big of a weekend was it, in your opinion, for the Pac-12? Darien, we'll start with you.
I think it was very, particularly you look at UW coming off a 4-8 season, got a new head coach. You got my man Lake out of there, and now they kind of got some revitalized culture, energy within that building. You got a transfer quarterback from IU coming there and slinging it. I mean, throwing for 350 yards like on average. And so, to me, that's a team to watch out for, especially in the Pac-12. You kind of look at their schedule. They got a – I feel like the Pac-12 is so iffy to me because I feel like anybody can get beat. I don't think it's a true contender or like somebody that somebody's scared of. Obviously, you got USC, you got Oregon. But I think everybody in that conference believes they can beat everybody, especially with Utah falling the way they have this year, BYU taking a loss. So I'm excited to see, to me, UW. They're 3-0. They're playing with a lot of swagger, putting up points. They have stopped people. I don't think they played a really good offense yet. So to me, that's a team to watch for. And going on with that, I'd like to see Oregon continue to bounce back from that first week at Georgia. And to me, it's going to be interesting to see how, in a good way, that loss could have been a real perspective shift for them to really get serious about the season. Not that they already weren't, but you go get smacked like that on national television, it's like, all right, like, this is going to be the story for the year, or are we going to change this thing really quickly? And you can see Bo Nix kind of getting in his groove. They're finding their way. So I feel like those teams that are watching, obviously USC. USC is the team of the year. So many transfers in with Lincoln Riley. So I think they got a lot of stuff going on. And, like, about the way they're doing their conference play this year. It's a winning percentage. So it's going to be interesting to see the two teams that kind of come up towards the end. And I'm interested to see. I think the front runners are obviously Oregon and USC, but I think somebody else could squeeze in there and make something happen too.
Clint, I agree with Darien. Sometimes a loss can teach you a lot. A dismantling can teach you a whole lot. Every man, every duck, everybody in that building, they come in beyond sober. We did all this off-season work. We did all these rallies and all these dinners and all these team bonding deals and all this stuff. We boarded the plane feeling a certain way. We rode the bus over there to Mercedes-Benz feeling a certain way, pregame a certain way, and got laid out like some carpet. Like the whole thing got dismantled.
Right.
Back to the shop we go. And like Darien said, they had 2 good weeks. I don't even know who they played the week before. Now you have another top 12 team. A lot of growth we saw out of that Oregon team. And Dan Lanning getting these guys to bow up, coming in. Were you impressed? Does it sustain for Oregon?
Yes, I was impressed because they did it in impressive fashion. Now, I didn't like what I saw when I watched the game. Dan Lanning appeared to pull the reins back a little bit, put the backup quarterback in, and start kind of playing with the opponent a little bit too early for me. He should have kept the pedal to the metal, if you know what I mean. I didn't like that. But if you just look at what Oregon's done, is one thing, guys, let's be completely honest. The easiest thing in college football to overcome in terms of the college football playoffs is a week 1 drumming by the best team in America.
That's true.
That is a non-factor if we're being completely honest to how Oregon finishes this season. Yeah. And so Oregon going out there and beating a BYU team, the one group of 5 BYU team, the one group of 5 team that I believe is going to be viewed as a Power 5 moving forward in terms of strength of schedule and quality win and all that kind of job. That was a big time win. So when you're talking about the Pac-12, right? The Pac of 12. Listen to me. I'm field of 12, Pac of 12. When you're talking about the Pac, God dang, I can't spit it out. The Pac-12.
Pac-12. Yep.
You got Oregon, and look, I still believe Utah's got a shot. They started out ranked high enough, and I think Florida's going to right the ship to be a middle of the pack football team to where that's going to end up being not as bad a loss as everybody thinks it was. As from an unranked football team the first season, and then Washington's getting some national recognition. So my point is, the Pac-12 has all of a sudden got not 2 players. They started with Oregon and Utah. Now all of a sudden Washington's creeped up there nationally and getting a little bit of love. And by the way, Washington State is 3-0. And so you've got some teams here that are really, really high-level teams that are going to be vying for that Pac-12 top team. And you've got some dudes a little bit lower, Washington State, that if you can beat them, those are going to be quality wins. So look, when you look at USC, Utah, Oregon, Washington, all of a sudden the Pac-12 is a little bit more real than maybe some of us. Let me speak for myself. The Pac-12 is a little bit more of a contender than I gave them credit from jump.
Yeah, 100%. Again, an undefeated Oregon State team. We're 3 weeks into the season. UCLA is making noise. Arizona making noise. Utah has seemed to kind of find their footing after going into the swamp and finding out how real the Jurassic Park is. The Trojans are still lurking out there. Just stay in the conversation. For the sake of the sport, stay in the conversation. Let me ask you both quickly. If you're the commissioner of this league, is it better to have a couple of like global monsters like the Big Ten does? Or all like obviously the Jurassic Park's different, but the Big Ten has a couple of teams, 3-4 teams they could dispatch anywhere and know they'll drag a carcass back. Or is it better to have parity? Which do you see as the more advantageous structure to your conference, Darien?
A great question. I think in the long term, it's better to have a monster because you're gonna have more. It'll be better to have one of your teams be the more dominant team within the realm of the country aspect. Because if you get a team that makes the playoffs and makes a big New Year's Six game, that's gonna be a lot of eyeballs on the conference, and they can go win one of those games, whether the New Year's Six game or the first bowl game, or make their way to a national championship. That's automatically going to bring more eyeballs to the conference. The same way Clemson's done with the ACC. Like our conference gets the benefit of doubt sometimes because of Clemson. So I think if somebody from the Pac-12 can be that team to rise up like that 2014 UW team, or I think 2016 UW team, some of those teams that made it to the playoffs, it's going to be great for the conference. But as far as throughout the season, I think parity to me has more of a value if I'm a commissioner. If you can have a couple teams that are in that ranked, because a lot of conferences they hang their hat. We got 5 teams ranked this week. We got 4 teams ranked this week. Like ACC, we got 5 teams ranked. We hold on to it for dear life. We got 5 teams ranked week 3, and the ACC, it makes our strength of schedule look better. So the Pac-12 can have obviously they kind of let loose at Utah, lose it to Florida. If they can get some of those ranked wins within the conference and out of the conference, I feel like it's better for the conference as a whole because they have that narrative. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
it's the Pac-12.
Clint, going with that narrative, and I'm gonna fine tune it for you. You're running the Pac-12. Do you want that one monster who, yes, they're slaying the whole conference and everybody else is a mile behind, but they have a real shot to do something in this dance? Now, when it expands, it helps everybody. But right now it's 4. You want that one monster, or is it better to see 3 of your ball clubs make it into the New Year's 6 games?
3 ball clubs in the New Year's 6 games. Hey, George, I'm a firm believer in this. We talk a lot about the SEC and about the parity and about whether it's fair or it's not. And I personally hate the conversations because I think the real reason the SEC is viewed as the most powerful conference in America gets overlooked. The reality of the SEC being the best has nothing to do with Alabama and Georgia.
Right. It
has everything to do with when you look over in the East, beyond Georgia, you've got Florida. This year, you've got Kentucky. Back when I was playing, Tennessee was winning national championships. And then you look over in the West, forget Alabama. Auburn's won a national championship. I know they're shit in the bed right now, but you look at Arkansas. Arkansas is a 9 or 10 win team right now. You look at LSU again. I know they're shit in the bed right now, but they've won national championships.
Correct.
A&M 2 years in a row have been top 6 in the country in the preseason. They're a really good football team. So when I personally gauge the strength of conferences, for me, everybody's got a 1 and 2. Everybody's got a 1 and 2. It's about 3 through 6.
Yeah.
Year in, year out. And look, 5 and 6 may change. They may go in and out, but it's about 3 through 6. And if 3 through 6 are out there making a lot of noise, climbing in and out of the top 10, winning bowl games, being relevant in recruiting battles, that is the power of the SEC. And so that's what other conferences don't have at the moment. The Big Ten's close, but they don't have that at the moment. So I would say 3 teams bouncing in and out of the top 10, 3 teams that at the end of the year, boy, the Pac-12 is going, which one's the best, man? The Pac-12 championship, does it mean something or is it just an afterthought? Are we watching to see who gets in the college football playoffs or is it an afterthought? It doesn't matter what happens. To me, that's the meat of what's going on here. So I'd say 3 teams that are relevant, G.
Well, I know the people here out in the West Coast, speaking as one of them, it does feel good, as they would say out here, the Empire kind of striking back. Oregon is up off the mat, showing that combo cross. Washington, you don't really know these teams, showing some flex. SC is looking like what we thought we were. To that point, we just talked about this on Saturday night, and we didn't get a chance to discuss it with the 2 of you here at the Field of 12 After Dark, powered by BetRivers. Darien, Rencher, Clint, does it make more sense, given that all these unknowns, to hold the national ranking? Does it make more sense to let these guys play 3 weeks, 4 weeks, maybe even let them get to October 1st? You don't even start doing the official bowl ranking deal to what, 6-7 weeks in? Why do we need a preseason ranking? Why do we need a preseason ranking? When you get these teams, Penn State came from unranked, now they're top 10. Notre Dame went from 5th, now they're out. We only played 3 ball games. Like they don't have that, especially with the portal changes, new coaching staffs. and just football, why do we need a preseason ranking?
Well,
ratings.
Yeah, look,
that's what it comes down to. At the end of the day, it's about how big can we make these games week 1, week 2, week 3, and then whether they live up to it throughout the season, that's up to the team.
But let me ask you both that question. When does Alabama and Texas broke the Fox viewing record for regular season streaming games for college or pro? Nobody think about Texas, not from rankings. It's an oddity. The Roman army invading Austin, Texas, Austin, Texas, it's a brand. The Roman army, they travel. You want to watch what they do. Oregon and Georgia, I don't even know what Oregon was ranked when they went down to go see the White Walkers. It's just some brands with these interconference deals. It's just fascinating to see. Ohio State, Notre Dame. Now it looks absurd that was two top five teams.
Top five matchup.
But here's the thing, man. The problem is we need them so that me, you, and D got something to talk about the 3 weeks leading up to the damn season, right? That's what we need.
I feel you.
But the problem isn't the preseason rankings. The problem is how they arrive at the preseason rankings. I mean, and look, I'm not trying to pile on here, but when you look at Notre Dame and A&M, and you look at Notre Dame, no quarterback, lost one of you, in your words, George, one of the top 3 active head coaches in college football, great head coach, CEO. Yep. In comes a head coach that's never coached before. I mean, those are all reasons to drop a team a few notches, not put them in the top 10.
Correct. Right?
And then you look at A&M. And if you just look at A&M, what A&M did last year, they finished 5th in the West, guys. And this is again, and I'm not going to. I know, George. I know you get tired of me beating this dead horse, but at the end of the day, you're talking about a coach that's an offensive-minded coach that should be on the cutting edge, quarterback developer, just player developer in general. That's not what's going on in College Station as far as what we've seen. So if you looked at last year and you watched last year, and if you played ball like we all did, you know that you can recruit 10 5-stars tomorrow, and they are not going to help you win a bunch of games. They're not going to help you in top 10 matchups this year. They may in a year, hell yeah, balls to the wall, let's ride. But this year, I don't give a shit who you are. You ain't helping me. Right. I mean, maybe 2 or 3 of them might fill voids. Right. So, I mean, the problem isn't the preseason rankings. The problem is however these dudes, whoever's creating them, however they're getting to the rankings, that's the problem. Right. I mean, that's the issue, not the rankings themselves.
But doesn't that go to the point? If the people who are creating the rankings are the problem, why don't you just take it out of their hands?
I'm cool with it.
Let's just see some knockouts first and then say top contender, tomato can. Look a little Mike Tyson-ness over there, as opposed to, like you said, they're just going off of last season.
Yeah, in theory, but at the end of the day, it's about ratings. It's about these who gets the evening game is the ranked matchup. Who gets the big college game day. It's about that stuff. And sometimes it does live up to the hype. Like you got last year, there's a couple like those first week games. Like you got the ranked teams that live up to it. Like Georgia lived up to the hype last year. They were a top 5 team, they won it all. Bama, years of Clemson's won it all. So I think there is some. They don't miss entirely, but they do miss on some teams for sure.
That's a great point. Regarding that, here's who's not missing. Let me get it out of my mouth here. Here's who's not missing. The Big Ten East. Now, I think the Big Ten, top to bottom, and Jurassic Park, which is SEC for us. Yeah, it's 1A, 1B. You got to tilt to Jurassic Park. But if you just take their top 3 or 4 programs, there is no other conference in America that's more comparable to the SEC, Clint, than the Big Ten. And here is the current standings. Ohio State currently 3rd, Michigan 4th. And going from unranked right back into the discussion is Penn State at 14, following them giving Auburn their worst home loss since 1984 and outrushing one of the SEC teams by 200 yards in their own backyard. Penn State is now 14th. I want to walk you guys through a couple things here regarding Michigan because there is some question, and I can't even say it's not fair about Michigan. They're ranked 4th. Who have they played? And people are saying, I think their total opponent schedules either 1-9 or 2-9 or something like that. But I asked the both of you, and we said this Saturday night, if a zoo visitor stumbles into a bear exhibit and gets mauled, blood and guts everywhere, and then 2 more stumble into that bear exhibit and they faint and they find themselves in the same fate, that's on the visitors to me. That bear is still a bear. It just hasn't seen another bear. I don't think it's right for people to question that bear. And since we're talking about that bear, I just want to hit you guys with a couple of stats here. Michigan right now, 1st in the country in points per game, 5th in the country in yards per game, and they're 3rd in the country in total defense, 4th in the country in yards, average yards per game. On both ends, they're sitting top 5 nationally. Now, that's going to give some, but under Harbaugh, they finished the season with some top 5 defenses. And then last year, they pushed themselves all the way to the into the playoffs. We'll come back on Ohio State and Penn State. Let's go to Michigan. Are you a believer? Clint, I'll start with you.
A believer in what?
A believer that Michigan is a global power. It's a monster. Whoever they see, they're easily an equal opposite regarding any competition out there.
Yeah, I mean, based off of what we saw from Michigan last year, and we've seen, like you said, against lesser opponents this year, there's no reason not to believe that they're going to pick up where they left off. I mean, there's no reason not to believe that. I know it's been a little bit of a controversial situation with their quarterback, but there's no reason to believe that this team can't rally behind J.J. McCarthy and they can't go do something big. Yeah, I mean, I'm a believer at this point. I'm a believer that they can go out there and compete and be a college football playoff relevant football team in the conversation. Yeah, I'm completely, and this hasn't always been the case, but I'm completely A-okay with Michigan with that logo being in the conversation. Absolutely.
Darien, I'm going to flip the question to you. Looking at Michigan, I'm just going to make the large assumption you're going to kind of roll with Clint there, and unless you're not, hold your peace on that part. But I'm just going to say this. When you look at the Wolverines and you look at the teams they're surrounded by, the White Walkers in Georgia, they just look invincible. The Roman Army does what the Roman Army does. They come to your village, they demolish it. Now they kind of have a little bit of a battle, and then they demolish it. In Alabama, then Ohio State is doing their thing. They don't have their fastball yet. They've had some early season injuries, but they're still winning games. Then you got Clemson, then you got Oklahoma, but Michigan sitting right there. Is it not fair to say Michigan's getting the most from the least? Like, we don't really mention a whole lot of their offensive skill players. We only know it's 2 quarterbacks because neither one of them have stepped out in front of the other. No one really knows a big deep threat that they have. Blake Corum is a really nice running back, but that defense and everybody kind of sets him up for success. Last game, he had like 7 carries, 4 touchdowns. Couldn't we say they're getting the most with the least? And doesn't that also tip your cap back to Coach Harbaugh and what he's doing with that team?
I don't think I'm ever going to say I would never view Michigan as an underdog. Like, I mean, they look at the stadium. I feel like just that speaks volumes. I can't see Michigan as an underdog. I will say, to me, out of the teams you listed, I guess obviously you got Georgia and Bama. They have the hardest time getting to the playoffs because they got to play, like you said, they got to play Penn State. They got to play Ohio State. So if anything, I feel like they deserve a lot of respect of their route each year.
Michigan State, Wisconsin.
Right. I mean, they got a route that they're going to have to get through. I'm looking at Penn State, October 15th. It's going to be a good game. Michigan State, they got Ohio State to cap off the season in that rivalry game. And so I think they haven't, in the past, I thought they haven't been notable for anything besides just being good. Like, they've always had a good defense, especially last year, that top pick. So I think they do deserve some more credit. I think it'll be interesting to see them get into conference play and seeing how the dominance carries over to some actual teams they like have the same resources like that they do. So I think it's going to be interesting to see them kind of walk into these next couple games. I feel like that'll be the true test. And if they continue to roll, like steamroll teams like they're doing, scoring points, running the ball at will, stopping teams, holding them below 20 points, I mean, yeah, put them up there with the best of them.
I want to ask both of you this question. Let's just jump it forward. And let's, again, work off assumption. Michigan currently right now is ranked 4th. Their blood rival, Ohio State's 3rd. So you have 2 Big Ten teams following up behind 2 teams from the Jurassic Park and the SEC. If Michigan and Ohio State, if each of them just blaze a path forward until they meet each other and they play a 12-round, split decision battle, I think this year it's in Columbus. Is there an argument to be made that both of them go in just the same as if Georgia and Alabama blaze their way undefeated, battle each other, Clint, Darien? Is it within reason, no matter what the rest of the country does, is it within reason that we could see 2 SEC teams and 2 Big Ten teams in the Final Four, even if an Oklahoma or a Clemson, maybe they stumble? Say Oklahoma and Clemson stumble, and obviously one of the SEC teams and one of the Big Ten teams has to stumble because they're going to see each other. But a one-loss Big Ten and a one-loss SEC team, would that not show they're stronger than anybody else? Darien, let's go to you since it seems like it has hit you particularly different here.
Yeah, we can go hypothetical. So if Clemson stumbles
in that conference, now say it
right,
now, in
right,
that conference,
right. If we stumble, we don't get in. That's just point blank. Period. We don't. ACC doesn't have that respect yet. If Oklahoma stumbles, neither do they have the respect. Only 2 conferences to get the benefit of doubt in that regard would be the Big Ten and the SEC. So yeah, that definitely is a possibility because the Pac-12, to me, the Pac-12 team, for them to get in, if you look at the 4-team playoffs, because to me, you got the Big Ten, ACC, Big 12. For them to get in on that side, because obviously past years they haven't, 2 teams from either the Big Ten or SEC have gotten in, they got to be dominant. They got to completely obliterate. Like that has to be, like, obviously want parity, but in that game, that has to be a team that's just outright better than the other. For them for the committee not to skip over a 1-loss Big Ten team or a 1-loss SEC team. So if that is the case, the Pac-12 team is like just not dominant. I could see that be a real contention upon, do we let 2 1-loss or a 1-loss Big Ten team and a 1-loss SEC team get in? Because the way it's looking, I mean, what'd you say?
So you're saying, like, say USC beats Oregon by a late field goal and they have an ugly and dramatic win. They got to come from behind in Salt Lake to beat Utah, but they survive. A team surviving the Big 12, not decapitating people, but, literally on the ground, choking them out.
Yeah.
That may not have enough body of work in such a, like, really it might be the 5th weakest conference, 4th with the Big 12, to overcome one of those 2 1-loss teams. Clint, is that your position regarding a possible double-double? SEC, Big Ten, let's lock it up.
Yeah, I mean, gosh dang, George, that's a hypothetical, man. Hell, I ain't the sharpest tool now. Shit, I've had a couple tequilas tonight. I don't know. Look, I think here's the thing is, I believe this is a year where Alabama could be squeezed out. I don't typically believe that Alabama is a team that could be squeezed out, but this year I do. You go down to the wire with Texas. You mess around, and last year they went down to the wire with a 6-6 Auburn team with the first year of Brian Harsin, which we now know is a cluster. You mess around and do that 2 or 3 times this year, and you don't win the SEC championship game, even though that may be your first loss, and that loss may be to Georgia. Obviously, that's what it would be. If that were to happen, I could see where a USC, or to your question, George, 2 Big Ten teams would then squeeze into the college football playoff. Now, Gosh dang, could it be a 2 SEC, 2 Big Ten? That'd get awfully hairy. Now, I think the college football playoff, the college football playoff committee's bold. I don't know if they're that bold.
I don't know if they're that bold either. Not that they're bold enough to put two of the same, man. I don't know about two of the same. You know what I'm saying? They're that bold.
But what if if all four ride just like they are, none of them fall out of the top 5.
You're right.
Clemson gets in there with NC State, something wild happens, block field goal, whatever. Then they roll off of that one loss. Oklahoma gets in here, mixes it up with Baylor. Something wild happens. I can't believe it. They only have one loss. They roll from there after that one loss. But when you look across those conferences, there is not another monster really looking back at them. And if it'll have to be the surviving word is key. There's a difference. There is a middle ground between surviving and dominating that I think the other conference can get in. But I think the Pac-12 is just always going to be surviving that conference. If Oklahoma can just prove to be good enough, the committee won't do that. And if Clemson can prove to be dominant enough, not completely dominant, but dominant enough, they'll get in. The question mark would be if everybody's surviving and these 4 teams are just dominating everybody up until they play each other. And then those games are the true like fourth quarter battle where it comes down to the last play. Then the committee's got their work cut out for them. They got their work.
Look, I mean, look, guys, that would take – it could happen, yes, but that would take Clemson somehow messing the bed, Oklahoma messing the bed, USC messing the bed. I mean, it would take – in my opinion, it would take the stars to align, maybe even in a bigger way than they did last year for Cincinnati.
So to the greater point there, according to our producer Trevor, Alabama has always made the playoffs. Since the playoffs started, they have always made the playoffs. So I think
not one year. They lost. They had because I remember 2018, 2017. They had 2 losses. That's the only time. I got to say that though. I have to say that.
Oh, you're right. You're right. That was your year. I did not read all my notes from our producer Trevor here. 2019, 2020, LSU, Ohio State, Clemson, and Oklahoma. I thought we were missing a little something that year. It didn't feel right. The Roman Army was not a part of that, but every year since they have been in. I just feel like if they come riding into town, kind of slumped over on that horse, but they're still on that horse, Clint, I feel like the committee is going to be like, what are we doing? This is Alabama. And for ratings purposes, the Roman Army, the White Walkers, and the Yankees and Red Sox of college football of Michigan and Ohio State, we want the parity. But if those 4 have a chokehold on the thing in the last year of a 4-team playoff, I think you'd be hard pressed not to give the people what they want.
I think it really depends on what logo is sitting at number 5.
Oh,
nice.
What brand is sitting at 5? Oklahoma State, your ass out. You ain't getting in.
Who does have the juice? USC?
USC, Clemson, Oklahoma. All 3.
USC, Clemson. So if any of those are undefeated by no matter what means, if they won their last 5 games by field goals, they hop the 4th team?
Yeah, you get in.
I would think so. Damn. I would think so.
The goose egg is stronger than the body of work.
Well, no. Well, yeah. I think that's we got that's a conversation. I can't go. My point is we just watched Alabama go toe to toe with Texas, who we don't know who the hell Texas is. Right. And so,
correct.
If Alabama continues to go toe to toe with suspect teams, the body of work is not as strong as it has been in the past. Is my point.
Right.
Finishing up on this big on the Big Ten East, Michigan, top 5 in the nation, offense and defense. Ohio State remains in the top 3, even though they haven't been at full health. And the Nittany Lions, we are Nittany Lions, Christian Hackenberg's alma mater, have roared from being unranked to now 14th in the country after an impressive knockout. It was really a first half knockout of Auburn down there at Jordan Hare. Let's switch now, coming off of those two conferences. All respect to everybody else. Again, Field 12 After Dark. Darien Rencher, Clint Stoerner, George Whitfield, powered by BetRivers. Fellows, we're starting to come into the fourth quarter here. We want to break into a discussion about realignment. And it is a fascinating thing because every time one of these stories breaks, I find myself going through a few deals. First, it's like, wow, really? And then you got to move yourself over to, well, it's here. So now you got to start thinking like this. And then you got to fast forward to, okay, so then what will it be? You got to just kind of like move yourself into it. Watching the two LA teams come to the Midwest, and then watching the two powers from the Big 12 step into Jurassic Park. The question is, will realignment be good for us? And the premise, and I'm just going to go right off of our producers, Dagan and Trevor, their premise is that we will lose traditions. Bedlam, they're saying, will be gone. Other deals will be gone. It's good the two LA teams went together. Is that a bad thing? Does it even matter? Clint, I'll go with you first.
Yeah, absolutely it matters. But I'll argue that in any game, any rivalry game that we're going to lose, there's also games that we're going to retain and games that we're going to gain. I mean, we hadn't seen right here, and I'm in Houston. We hadn't seen Texas A&M in years. I mean, it's a crying ass shame that college football, NCAA hadn't found a way to make that happen. It's going to happen again. So I'll argue that we gain a few. Now, I don't know how the math works out. Do we gain more than we lose? I don't know. But this goes into, for me, George, this goes into when this became the Wild Wild West, a lot like the NIL, when this just became the NCAA was not managing a damn thing. This was possible, right? The NCAA could have found a way. And look, I don't know what you know better than I do, George. I don't know what dots need to be connected to make that happen. But there's bound to be a better way to realign than just, hey, the rich get richer. Y'all go get whoever the hell y'all want to. Doesn't matter how far the kids have to travel. Nothing matters. Just go get whoever you want to. So, look, the NCAA could have managed this thing differently. And a part of that could have been retaining rivalries. Now, with that said, there's still a way that if these teams go their separate direction, if there is still such a thing of a non-conference game, that non-conference game doesn't need to be against a small school that needs $2 million. Right. It needs to be against an in-state rivalry so that college football is better, not so that the smaller program is better.
Unless you're the head coach or AD of that smaller program. Your App State, they went headhunting, lost by a field goal to North Carolina. 2 weeks later, drag a carcass back from Jurassic Park when they got A&M. That's 2 weeks. They made close to $3 million, and you split the deal. And now all of a sudden, their campus is running up and down. Clint, you do make a great point. As I move over here to Darien, the NCAA really isn't running anything. They're not running anything.
Crying ass shame.
The real smoke-filled rooms are the conference commissioners, and even bigger than the conference commissioners are the university presidents and ADs. The backdooring and the politicking and the real power play is going with them. Darien.
But G, real quick, G, the reason that happened is because there's clearly a weakness.
And the weakness being?
The NCAA. Like if the NCAA was a true boss and they were running shit,
yeah,
the power, there wouldn't be such immense power with the conferences or with the athletic directors. And again, I understand that is a very, it's not as easy as I make it sound, but if the NCAA was a boss and they were running things and they were setting the standard, it wouldn't be this way. The reason that the conferences are running it, the reason the ADs are running it, and the reason that it's a Wild Wild West is because the boss is absentee. The boss doesn't have a voice. The boss doesn't want to be present and manage things. And
Right.
and it's so somebody has to do it.
Honestly, and I agree. I don't even know if you'd really call him a boss. It's like
it's more of a figurehead.
A figurehead, like a county clerk with the 5 families. Just imagine, are the 5 families really going to look over at the county clerk or the mayor's office? No, we'll handle the streets. You just keep running your stoplights and the festivals and things of that sort. Darien, especially coming from a university that's bound, just like Notre Dame will be pretty soon, is bound to be packing their bags. They're probably quietly packing their bags over there right now. If we just keep it all the way 100, is conference realignment, has it been good for us so far? Really, we haven't even really felt it. All we've done is we just been pointed in a new direction. We got a little taste with Alabama and Texas locking horns, but especially being a Clemson Tiger, is realignment good for us?
I think any change is going to be weird. I think over time it'll be fine. Like, I think people, I think the biggest thing is just trying to find a way to do both. Like, I think there's some things you should hold tight to throughout history as much as you can. Like, some things you should just try to fight for. And then obviously, like, you have to evolve, especially even talking about NCAA. Like, NCAA is more of a figurehead. And at one point they were, but then you start letting people do TV contracts. You start bringing in all this money. And then it gets to a point where, like, they don't have any say-so to what goes on, even though supposedly they are the governance of the NCAA, but too much money is being made to where people that are making the money are making the decisions. And so now you really look at the landscape of college football, and you see sometimes the fact that teams aren't getting as much money isn't because of their performance on the field, but because of the position they hold in the conference. And so a lot of teams are getting more benefit of the doubt than they should. Like, Rutgers is making more money than Clemson. Like, what the hell? You know what I'm saying?
Hey.
Like, bro, we ain't talking about Rutgers one day on this show, but Rutgers get more bread than Clemson. Like,
more
Clemson.
Bread than hey.
So, and that's where, to me, the conference realignment is going to be good. But then again, hopefully, I think you look at Bedlam, and hopefully they can figure out how to way to reverse that. If there's a way for the people or the powers that be to figure out how to still hold true to some things that have been really good to college football, which is rivalry, like true rivalry week. You know what I'm saying? There'll be different rivalries that kind of come about throughout the conference realignment. That'll be good. But at the same time, man, like, I want to see my boys play USC.
But they could, honestly, they could do that. To both your points, they get the whole month of September. It's basically college football's preseason. You're not in conference play. Every now and again, somebody conference will fall in. Florida and South Carolina linked up, and a couple of Purdue, Penn State. But for the most part, you get 2, 3, 4 weeks, Clint. If Texas and the Aggies really wanted to dance at Reliance Stadium or Cowboy Stadium, it's going to be one of the two. They could do it if they wanted to. Texas played UTSA. Aggies wanted to see App State, took an L with them. They could link if they wanted to link. Didn't have more ego, than not being able to do it.
Unless you come to me and tell me that conference realignment is going to knock out all 4 of the non-conference games. You come to me and tell me that, then we got to have a different conversation, right?
Right.
But right now we're playing 4 non-conference games. Cancel 2 of them jokers, add 1 conference game, and let me get 1 non-conference for my biggest rivalry. Oklahoma, you're going to play Oklahoma State.
Yep.
Right? I mean, hell, I was going to say Texas A&M. Now you're going to be in the same damn conference. So that solves itself. But I mean, Florida, you're going to play Florida State. I mean, it's not that, or some rivalries are going to go away. You're going to lose them. But for the most part, boy, if the adults involved in this negotiation or this decision-making process, the adults can make it happen.
They can make it.
Hey, look here, George. We can all win. As college football fans, we can all win in a major way if they do it right.
Can you imagine a prime time showdown between the Aggies and the Longhorns? And they shouldn't meet in a neutral site. You should have a home and away, or maybe the first one. Yeah, maybe the first one you do it at a neutral site, and just bring the rivalries back. They could do that. I personally, look, change is going to come, so it doesn't even make sense to try to like wrap your arms around a tree that's getting chopped down, that thing coming down. So get on with it. You know what I mean? Hug the next one. Real quick, now that we are down to got a question coming in here. If the 12-team playoff came a few years ago, would conference realignment be like this? Great question. That comes in from our producer, Dagan Hughes. I was going to attribute it to somebody at a bar in College Station. Darien, Clint, real quick. If the 12-team playoff was implemented 3 years ago, would you see all this massive shuffling?
Yes.
The highway is
yes.
much wider.
I say yes because the money you make in postseason doesn't still account for the money you can make off TV stuff in the regular season. And so, like, I mean, I think it would have been. I don't know if that even should be a thing, but I think the whole idea to me, conference realignment and then like expansion and playoffs are two different things. I think expansion and playoffs is just to give a little more excitement to that time of the year. Conference realignment is to restructure the whole ship. Like, what are we doing in college football? Like, who's getting the money and how are we getting the money to people? So that's different. I think the 12-team expansion is more so just add some more flavor to what's kind of been bland to some people. Some people want to see the big dogs play every year, and like I'm all for it. So I feel like when it gets down to it, there's 4 teams to me that are a lot more superior than other teams. But now it'll be interesting to see in the years to come how that plays out because I would like to see a bigger team get caught slipping in that round 1 of a 12-team playoffs, and it mix the whole thing up. So it'll be interesting.
Especially if you got a team that comes in on a hot streak. Clint, if we have a 12-team playoff, now obviously you disperse a lot of the attention. The recruits can now move and see some different programs. When you see the same 4 teams in the playoffs, they tend to like their gravitational pull is stronger than everybody else because they're in that dance. We're watching them in January. Does this change realignment?
Cash rules everything around me.
Dollar bills, y'all.
That's it. Look. No, I'm with D. I think ultimately it ends up happening, but I do think we're further removed from it. Like I think we would be 5 or 6 years away from it happening if the Pac-12 was represented, if the Group of 5 was represented, if the Big 12 had a little bit more sweat in the game, if you will, if the SEC wasn't such a dominant figure, I think it would have pushed this off into the distance. But I do think at some point in time, we'd all be sitting here talking about realignment, talking about the big boys joining, the rich getting richer. We'd all be talking about that, no question.
It definitely is going to become Big 12. I mean, what am I talking about? The Big 10, just to get that right. The Big 10 in Jurassic Park, the SEC. It is going to be a cold war. I can't wait to see Clemson go on up north and join the Big 10. Speaking of Clemson, fellas, just to wrap this up, week 4, we hope you guys come back and join us Saturday night after the primetime game. We'll be talking about Clemson, Wake Forest, Florida, Tennessee. Those 2 will lock horns. That'll be a lot of fun. Clint, your Hogs go down to Dallas, and they're going to dance with the Aggies. The Aggies need that one bad, but probably not more so than everybody up there at Arkansas. And Ohio State gets its first big-time heavyweight test since Notre Dame. They have been in some battles. They will take on the Wisconsin Badgers, and we will see you next Saturday night. Field of 12 after dark. Clint Stoerner, Darien Rencher, George Whitfield. See you this weekend.